Welcome back to another episode of Plat'n That. Today we've got another banger account. Following an absolute heavyweight with Bruce Man last week, we have Assassin 333 this week. Now, Assassin has been trophy hunting for about 11 years with a whopping 98% completion rate, nearly 99% actually. And very fittingly, their first trophy was in Assassin's Creed 2 way back in the day. Assassin, if you are watching, mate, I am very much hoping to see a full completion of Assassin's Creed Platinums. Live up to the name, mate. Anyway, guys, let's jump right in. Alrighty, and to get the ball rolling, we have a Plague Tale Innocence, followed by a Plague Tale Requiem, which of course are two fantastic games where it's one big escort quest with a lot of rats. Great games though, I do recommend these. A Way Out is next. This is a co-op game where you and a friend must break out of prison and then track down the people that sort of landed you in prison. There's some conspiracies, there's some crossovers, some double crosses. It is good fun, and at 7 hours, it's kind of a must play. We then have Abzu next, which is a walking simulator, but underwater, where you do exactly zero walking. Actually, you just do a lot of diving, but it is a fantastic game as well. This is probably the most unique game of what we've seen so far in Agents of Mayhem, which was a spin-off to Saints Row. I believe it was like a twin stick from memory, but I'm not entirely sure. I do know that it is unobtainable. There was some multiplayer trophies that are now very unobtainable, unfortunately. But to see that you did smash this out is very nice. This is one we don't actually see on Plat'n That very often. We then have Alien vs Predator, a game that I would absolutely love to do myself one day. I really should just do it, actually. Maybe I'll do a video on it. It just adds the sort of Pandora's box of, do I want to add PS3 games to my never-ending backlog? Fantastic game, though. You play as the Predator, you play as a Marine, you play as an alien. There's sort of 3 campaigns in the one game, which is something you don't see very often these days. But yeah, it's a brilliant one. This is a game that I believe it came out in 2010 from memory. I was definitely in early high school when this came out, and I absolutely adored this game. We then have Apex twice. I love to see Apex here. I've actually been very tempted to start Apex on the new account, the one that we're doing videos on moving forwards, to start a video and get the ball rolling with Apex. So maybe I'll do some Apex. Maybe I'll do some Apex with you guys in the Discord server even. We then have Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel. It's the only Army of Two here. But Assassin, you lived up to the name, mate. You lived up to the name. Look at this. This is, brings a tear to my old trophy hunting eyes. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Let's jump in. Let's have a look at what we've got here. We have Brotherhood once on the PS3. Which is the one with multiplayer. Obviously, it is now unobtainable now that the servers have closed, but Assassin has got it done. You do love to see it. In fact, I think you got it done just before the servers closed. I think they were 2021 from memory. If not, definitely 2022. We then have both standalone stacks of Freedom Cry, which obviously was kind of a standalone DLC for Black Flag. It is also in Black Flag, which means given that we've got a double stack down here, you've done Freedom Cry 4 times, which is actually pretty impressive, not gonna lie. We got 2 twice, followed by 3 just the once, no remaster. I'm curious, Assassin, are you planning on doing 3 remaster and Brotherhood on the PS4 and possibly Revelations? We'll have to check that as well. And Liberation even. We've got Liberation remastered here. Black Flag times 2. Followed by Mirage, which was okay. I know a lot of people were sort of very excited that it was kind of a return to Assassin's Creed's roots. I didn't really feel like it was. It was kind of it was Valhalla on a very small map, which was not a negative, trust me. But they just gave you the ability to put your hood on and sit down on benches. That was kind of the return to roots. And I don't know. I guess I expected more from that, but it's an okay game. It's one I plan on doing all the Assassin's Creeds on Project Platinum at some point. So it'll get done at some point. We then have Odyssey, Origins, Revelations, just the once, Rogue twice, which is very nice to see, followed by Syndicate, Unity, and to round us off is the 100% for Valhalla, which obviously is a very beefy completion there. I actually surprised that they never added any DLC after 2022 there. I thought that they were adding stuff until a lot more recent, but I guess the PTSD of Valhalla is affecting my mind there. We then have both Astrobot games here. Rescue Mission obviously is the VR game, and Astro's Playroom, of course, is the fantastic game that comes free with every PS5. In fact, it's also the first game you don't have 100% on here. However, I am going to count it as 100% because the trophies that you don't have are trophies that you actually can't earn yet. They're sort of being unlocked over time, kind of the same way one of the Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLCs was done. This game's getting done in a very similar sort of way where, yeah, you have to sort of wait for the trophy to unlock every sort of couple weeks to a month or so. We then have Assassin's Creed on the mind. Batman Arkham Knight here with the near 100%. You're only 3 trophies off. Now, I can guess what they are. They're probably the Millionaire Trophy and probably a couple of the other sort of star-related combat challenges or Predator challenges. You then have Origins 100%, which I love to see, especially given that you only did it a year ago. Which is a very hard completion to do. So congratulations there, especially with those servers. Now they're finally unobtainable now, but when they were open around this time, I believe it could take anywhere up to half an hour to actually get into a match with people. We then have Batman's Telltale, followed by the Battlefields here. Ooh, we got another beefy completion right here, actually. We got Battlefield 1, full 100%. You'll love to see that. You grinded out all of the guns, which is really cool to see there. Battlefield 1943, sadly unobtainable, but a fantastic PS3 game. Probably the Battlefield multiplayer that I played the most besides Battlefield 1 myself. 2042 twice. Assassin, are you okay, mate? That is far too much of that extraction zone garbage. We then have Battlefield 3, followed by 4 twice. Hardlines 100% is really nice to see with the DLC being unobtainable now, and then of course Battlefield 5, followed by both Bad Companies, which obviously their servers have also closed as well. Tragically, because these games were genuinely fantastic, especially Battlefield 2. That campaign is fantastic. We then have Beyond Two Souls 100%, followed by Biomutant, which is a very bog average at best game. Biomutant is certainly the most game of all time. That's probably the best description for it. Very average. Can't say I A, remember much about it, and B, enjoyed it. Only one Bioshock here with Infinite on the PS3. You did complete it, however, which means that you did do all of the DLC arena challenges, which are definitely on the rough side. We then are only missing one trophy in Blood and Truth, which is a VR game that I believe is very, very difficult, especially the 100%, as you can see by the 0.85% completion rate. Body Counters next, which you smashed out in 2 years, followed by only one Borderlands in Borderlands 3. If you were going to pick one, that's probably not the one I would have picked. Unless, of course, you're basing it on gameplay, where it's probably the only one that is fun to actually play. Bugsnax, fantastic game. Love to see that you got the 100% there. Bully, this is another game that I do plan on doing myself at some point. Fantastic game. It's called something different in Australia. I think it's Canis Edit or something. Dog Eats Dog, I believe that is in Latin. Because we couldn't call it Bully because we've got our feelings get hurt and it's very upsetting for us. But fantastic game. One of those ones where I wish Rockstar had done more with that IP. Same with LA Noire. But it's definitely a fantastic game right there. Assassin. Early Man at Sea, followed by Burnout Paradise, which is another 100% I love to see, especially given that like 60 of those 95 trophies are DLC. Only 3 Assassin's Creeds. Call of Duty's here with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. You've done the Platinum, and it looks like some of the zombies. I think the Platinum percentage is a bit lower than that. So that definitely means you've done some of the zombies. And then Modern Warfare 1 and 2 Remastered. We've then got Call of Juarez, Bound in Blood, and The Cartel, which were sort of Western first-person shooters that were pretty good from memory. I think there's a third one. I think the third one's pretty bad though. So maybe you give that one a skip, as you've clearly done. We then have Captain America: Super Soldier, followed by Child of Light, which is a fun Ubisoft game. No platinum, but I do love to see the 100%'s getting some love. Child of Light's kind of fun in that everything's kind of poem based, which is kind of an interesting spin on things. Conan Exiles 100%. It's also nice to see that Conan is now obtainable again. I do know that wasn't for quite some time. We then have our first sort of easy peasy of the list, and still it took you an hour to do, but Concept Destruction's a relatively quick and simple one. Concrete Genie's fantastic to see here. This is actually probably the first game I ever did any content on in any way, shape, or form, so it does have sort of a special place in my heart, I guess you would say. But it's a fun game. You sort of paint monsters on walls and navigate a plot of sort of finding happiness in despair, I guess, at the end of the day. You're sort of in a very gloomy, wailing sort of town. Things aren't particularly great. The DLC, however, is an utter pain because you need a VR to actually do the DLC. So if you're like most people who played this game on PlayStation Plus, and then the DLC came out and you didn't have a VR, you're kind of stuffed, unfortunately. Control's fantastic. This is in the same universe as Alan Wake. Definitely another fantastic one that I wouldn't mind playing again myself at some point. Crysis 1 Remastered. It's probably the best of the Crysis games. Yeah, it's an okay series. You then got Crysis 3 on the PS3, which is quite notable because this is one of the ones that did have a lot of multiplayer. The DLC or the remasters got rid of the multiplayer, which means you did the version with a lot of multiplayer there, and you did smash it out in a week, which is very impressive. Cyberpunk's 100%. I didn't actually realize the PS4 version of Cyberpunk didn't release Phantom Liberty. That's interesting. So that's a PS5 exclusive. I wasn't aware of that actually. That's kind of cool to know. Day of the Tentacle, it's a point and click game. It's fantastic. You got the challenges done in Days Gone, which is really cool to see here. I dabbled in these myself back in the day and was really not a fan at all. I hated these, to be honest. So it is cool to see that you have completed them there. We then have Dead Island 2. You've gone and done the DLC for this as well. Surprisingly good. Yeah, Dead Island rather, 2 is surprisingly good given that it came out like 15 years after the first game. I really enjoyed it. This is another one I'd like to go back and do myself again at some point soon, especially now that I believe all of the DLC has been released. I think they're not doing any more, so maybe I will clean that up and go back and do a video on that at some point soonish. Dead Space Remastered. This is another one I plan to cover on the channel in a Project Platinum. I adore this game. If you had told me when this was announced that I would love Dead Space Remastered and hate Callisto Protocol, I would have laughed at you, but here we are. Dead Space Remastered is probably one of my favorite remasters of all time, of all of them. This one has been done very, very well. You've then also got Dead Space 3. I've just talked up Dead Space 1. Dead Space 3 is a bit of a turd. But I will say there is a caveat to this. It's a turd that's very fun to play with someone else. If you can play Dead Space 3 entirely in co-op, it's not a bad time. If you play it as a Dead Space game, it will make you sad very quickly. We then have Death Stranding here, which you smashed out, followed by Deathloop's 100%, which is cool to see. Especially, this is another one I'm always surprised I've never played, especially given that it's made by the people who did Dishonored. We then have Defiance's Platinum, but not 100%, which does have me... Yeah, that was what I was about to say. I was about to say that this does have me worried because I see the unobtainable thing here, and yeah, the entire list is unobtainable, which means sadly Assassin can't get 100% completion accounts. I'm not entirely sure if that actually bothers you, Assassin. You will have to obviously let us know. But I think Defiance was a first-person sort of multiplayer shooter from memory that died a very quick death. You will have, or very quick, it's 6 years. do definitely let us know. The completion rate of 0.05% for the 100% is definitely concerning. However, we then have Deliver Us the Moon. No Deliver Us Mars just yet, and I believe that the developers of this series just did announce a Kickstarter for the third game, Deliver Us Home or something, I believe it's called. I am definitely going to be interested to sort of see how that one pans out. We then have Destroy All Humans number 2. No number 1, however, which is interesting given that they both are very fun remakes of PlayStation 2 games from way back in the day. Detroit Become Human. Not a big fan of this one. I've talked a lot about it in depth. Yeah, definitely not the biggest fan of this one right here. We then have Detuned, followed by Deus Ex, and both of these actually, which is pretty impressive given that I believe at least Mankind Divided, I believe, has multiplayer. And I think both of them actually have quite a few sort of get through the game without being seen, get through the game without killing people, all those sorts of trophies. So it is cool to see both of these games here. Normally we only ever see the one that was on PS Plus, which I believe is Mankind Divided. Donut County, followed by Doom and Doom 64. You did all the multiplayer in Doom, which is very impressive. Oh, and of course, Doom Eternal and VR. I didn't actually see those two there. Doom Eternal, I try and ignore exists. It's an okay game. Can't say I'm the biggest fan of it, especially the sort of ammo resource thing. I like that in some games. Less so in something like Doom, where I just want to switch my brain off and murder a lot of demons. We then have Drive Club, followed by Driver San Francisco, a double whammy of unobtainables there, but you did 100% them, which is nice to see. We then have Ducati, followed by Duke Nukem, and the 2 Dying Lights. I really like to see these here. Dying Light 2 especially is a game that eluded me. I had a few buggy trophies on this at launch. I also played the PS2 version, which did not help. But these are another 2 games I do plan on covering on Project Platinum at some point. So if you need the 5-player trophy in the first game, let me know. You might be in the video. Enemy Frontier, followed by Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and Evil West, which is the most unapologetically PS3 era-inspired beat-em-up I've ever played in my life. You're essentially a cowboy with big fists versus a lot of different types of vampires. Very fun game. You smash that one out in a week. We then only have one F1 game here in 2018, followed by the original version of Fall Guys, which is really cool to see. OR being original release. We then get into... I think that's every single Far Cry. So, Far Cry 2's 100%. I love to see that. Obviously, it is now unobtainable, tragically. We then have Far Cry 3 on the PS3. I thought this was also unobtainable because I do know that it does have multiplayer trophies. They must still be up. I thought they'd been shut. We then have Blood Dragon twice, followed by Far Cry 3 Classic, which is the PS4 version that dropped the multiplayer trophies. Far Cry 4's finally obtainable again, which I love to see. I adore Far Cry 4 personally. Absolutely adore this game. This is another one. This whole series is another one I want to do on Project Plat. As you can see, I have a lot of plans for the channel, Project Platinum especially. But Far Cry is another series I'd like to do, and I might even just start with 4 just to make sure that those multiplayer trophies are locked in. We then have Far Cry 5 and Far Cry 6's whole 100%, which is probably the most impressive of the lot. I will say Far Cry 5's got some annoying DLCs. I did really like the Zombies DLC, actually. That was quite a fun one in Far Cry 5, but Far Cry 6 doesn't have any good DLCs. They're all really shitty roguelikes. Or challenge maps, which just weren't fun at all, but it is cool to see that you did smash these out. We then have the original Far Cry on the PS3, followed by the 2 kind of very average Far Cry Primal and New Dawn, which are essentially just sort of expansions to the baseline games that they came out with at the time. We then have Fast and Furious Spy Racers Rise of Shifter, which is probably the most average racer I've ever played in my life. The most recent video to come up on the channel actually is my Project Platinum for this that I re-released. I made it about a year ago. Very average game though. Ferrari The Race Experience is next, followed by only 2 Final Fantasies in 15 and 16. You did 100% both, which is really cool to see. especially 15 in 2023, means that you did the comrades by doing sort of reverse patches, probably because they obviously were made standalone, which made the DLC for comrades very unobtainable unless you reverse patch. Front Mission Evolved is next, followed by Fruit Ninja. We then get some G's here with Game of Thrones Telltale, and then Ghost of Tsushima's 100%. The raid in this is no joke, so congratulations there, Assassin. Only the first Ghost Runner here. I'd be very curious to see if you do plan on doing Ghost Runner 2 at some point. Even more surprising is that we only have 2 God of Wars here. We got the 2018 sort of soft reboot of the series and one of the sort of spin-offs in Ascension, which is a really weird combo there. I am curious, Assassin, if you plan on doing these at some point. We then have Gran Turismo 5, which does have some unattainable trophies. Hopefully they're not some of the ones that you're still missing. I assume some of what you're missing are the gold medal times and stuff like that. We then have GT6, and then a whole slew of Grand Theft Autos here with the ports of the original games, which is super impressive. We've got GTA 3, San Andreas, and GTA Vice City there, all in this format, which is really cool to see. GTA 4's 100% is really, really cool to see. This is one of the ones I absolutely adore to see. We then have 5's 100% on the PS3. This is obviously unobtainable with the servers being shut on this now. And then GTA 5 on the PS4 as well. You don't have the 100% here. I can see you're missing 2 trophies, and I'm just going to predict that they are probably the Doomsday heists. I will not be surprised if they are Mastermind on that at all. And then to round it out, we also have the definitive version of Vice City. So I'm going to assume that Vice City is probably your favorite game in the series. We then have Gravel, followed by Grim Fandango. We then have Hardware Rivals here, followed by Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, which I thought was not great, to be honest. I'd heard fantastic things about Hellblade for years and years and years, but yeah, it just didn't do anything for me personally. We then have Here They Lie, followed by Hidden Through Time, which is smashed out in a day. Hitman Go. In fact, we've got a couple of the older Hitmans here, which is cool to see. Absolution's 100% on the PS3. Obviously, this is now unobtainable due to some of the multiplayer stuff there, so that's very nice to see. We then have Contracts, followed by Homefront: The Revolution, which was the sequel to the first Homefront game, and wasn't particularly great from memory. I think this one flopped really hard. We then have Horizon Forbidden West. You've done the full 100%, which is nice to see. I know that the DLC in particular is very, very grindy for this one. And then also Zero Dawn's 100%, which is cool. I know this one has New Game Plus. I think Forbidden West might have New Game Plus. I never actually did the DLC for this one. Maybe I should give Horizon Forbidden West a second chance at some point. What do you guys think? Should I keep joking about it not existing? Shame they didn't make a sequel. Or should I give it another chance and see what I think? We then have Horned Knight, which is smashed out in less than half an hour, followed by Hot Wheels Unleashed, which I thought was very mediocre, to be honest. I wasn't a big fan of Hot Wheels. I do know there is also a sequel at some point. I think it might have even been released this year. But I am curious, Assassin, if you do plan on doing it at some point. We then have Hue, followed by I'm Alive. In fact, we've got a few 100% here, which is nice to see, because Infamous Festival of Blood is down below as well. Immortals Phoenix Rising's 100% is very, very rough. Some of those, that DLC in particular, where you've got to do all the challenge maps. Oh my god, I'm so glad that I will never have to do that again. In Rays of Light is a very quick sort of walking simmy horror game. It's made by the same guy that did 35mm, and I do actually enjoy both of those games. In Rays of Light is certainly the least game of the two, but it was a good sort of starting point for a lone developer. I've never heard of Industria personally, but that does look actually quite interesting to me. We then have all of the Infamous games, with 1, 2, Festival of Blood, First Light, and Second Son of the series. I think Infamous 2 is probably my personal favourite. We then have Injustice 2, which is really nice to see here. You smashed that out in 3 months, which is actually very impressive. Only one Jack and Daxter here with the Precursor Legacy. Jazzpunk, fantastic little sort of parody on spy games. I adore Jazzpunk, so that is really nice to see there as well. Job Simulator, followed by Journey twice. All of the Just Causes with trophies have 100% too, which is really cool. Just Cause 2, no DLC for this one, obviously. Just Cause 3, which I wasn't the biggest fan of personally. I don't think it's a bad game, but it certainly didn't do anything for me. And then Just Cause 4, which I really didn't give much of a try. Pain of Lynch is next, followed by Colat, which is actually, I love to see this here. This is one that I really want to do myself at some point. This is based on the is it the Datlov Pass incident, I believe? Essentially, a bunch of Russian hikers went missing, and some of their bodies turned up in a snowstorm. And there's a lot of sort of theories as to how this could have possibly happened. I think their tents were found torn to bits, which is a bit sus. And weirdly enough, Collad is narrated by Sean Bean of all people. We then have Killing Floor 2's 100%, which is really cool to see. This is another one I want to do on Project Plat, followed by Shadowfall and Mercenary at 100%. Shadowfall actually isn't at 100%. You're missing one trophy. I know exactly what that trophy is going to be. It's going to be the Master Difficulty trophy. We then have Kingdom Come Deliverance's 100% in a month, which is insane. That is a lot of time dedicated to that. You actually finished this last month. Fantastic game, however. I am curious to see what your thoughts on this one were, Assassin, but I love to see Kingdom Come Deliverance here. We then only have one Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 3. You've done the Platinum, not the full 100%, however. LA Noire is next. I actually forgot that this game even had DLC trophies. I think there's 2 DLC cases that you have to do from memory. But this is another one I absolutely want to do a video on, probably by the end of the year. Touch wood. This is one that I definitely want to do soon because I am really missing this game. I do absolutely adore it, and I love to see that you also did it on VR as well. We then have Lake, which is a very average sort of relaxing postal game. It's a weird one. Lara Croft Go. Only one Lego game in Lego The Hobbit, which is this month's Platinum Club in the Discord server. This is one I should probably get onto myself at some point soon, followed by level 22. Only the 2 Life is Strange games, with the first one and the prequel Before the Storm. Linger in Shadows, you smashed out in 13 minutes, followed by Little Big Planet Vita, which of course is now unobtainable due to the, I think all of the Little Big Planet games besides Sackboy are now unobtainable due to server shutdowns. You then got Live Lock, followed by the 100% of Mad Max, which I am very jealous of. Another unobtainable one due to server closures. The full 100% of the Mafia trilogy is nice to see, especially the week in Mafia 2, wherein one of the DLC trophies for driving 1,000 miles is awful. It's a really bad one. So it is cool to see that you did get that full 100% there. You then got the 100% in Maneater, which, oh, those chaos levels are what they are in the DLC for this are annoying, aren't they? I don't miss those in the slightest. Marquette's a puzzle game, followed by the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy, and 3 of the Spider-Mans. You are missing Spider-Man 2 by the looks of it. I am curious if that's one you plan on doing at some point soon. We then have the full 100% for the Mass Effect trilogy, which is really cool to see, especially the Legendary Edition here, which is kind of a bunch of kill trophies and stuff for all 3 games of the trilogy combined into one list. A lot of the time what I'll see is these 3 are completed, however, Legendary Edition is skipped because it's all just the grindy, boring stuff. You then also have Max Payne, the very first game, ported to the PS4. I think this one's not too bad because I think you can use cheats for this one, if I'm not mistaken. You, however, can't use cheats for Max Payne 3, which you did smash out in a solid 6 years. Obviously, the multiplayer has also made this one now unobtainable. Both Medal of Honors, really cool as well, also unobtainable due to multiplayer, and I believe Mercenaries is the same. I actually really like the first of these reboot Medal of Honors. Frontline will always be my favorite. That's the first like war game I can think of that I ever played, so it'll always have a special place in my heart. However, this one here, I think 2019 this came out, or not 2019, 2009, or 2010, and it was a good one. It really wasn't bad at all. We then have all three Metro games at 100%, which is nice to see, especially Exodus with New Game Plus, and it obviously being an open world game that's quite a lot bigger than the others. The full completions for Middle Earth, Shadow of War, and Mordor. I love to see these as well. These are more games I'd love to cover on the channel at some point. Speaking of another one I'd love to cover, here's Minecraft as well, with its whopping 140 odd trophies. Definitely very cool to see. A super impressive one to see here actually is Mirror's Edge 1. That DLC there, the 0.67 completion rate, is no joke. It's very, very difficult. These are time trials where you got to get gold medals, and they are very unforgiving. But so that is definitely very nice to see there. It's also nice to see that you did do Catalyst, which I didn't think was that bad. I know a lot of people weren't big fans of this one, but I enjoyed it personally. We then have Mortal Kombat 11, followed by MotoGP. We've got 14, 15, and 17 here. Murdered Soul Suspect, followed by only the one My Name is Mayo, followed by a game I'm actually really curious on myself. This is one I do. I think it's currently in my shopping cart on PSN at the moment. Necromunda Hired Gun. It looks fantastic, but it also looks very janky. So I am curious if anyone's played Necromunda Hired Gun. Let me know if it's worth picking up. I think it's $13 Australian or something. And I am very curious as to if it is good or if it's worth doing a video on. This is one that I am very tempted on at the moment. Speaking of games I'm very tempted on, we've got a lot of Need for Speeds here with Need for Speed 2014 reboot, I believe this is. You are missing some of the DLC, which does not surprise me. I know these are very, very difficult. I mean, just look at that completion difference of 23% platinum down to 0.17% 100%. That is no joke at all. Followed by Need for Speed Heat, Hot Pursuit Remastered, Payback, Unbound, Most Wanted, Rivals, and Undercover, which is really cool to see there. It is a shame, however, that the Run is not here. That's one that I actually didn't mind at all back in the day. Octodad Deadliest Catch, another very fun 100%. I do like to see this one here. Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is really cool to see. Onrush is really cool to see as well. Painkiller Hell and Damnation sounds like the most PS3 game of all time. Paint Park Plus, followed by two of the Prince of Persia's, not the new one, however, in the first game, and Forgotten Sands, which I believe was the third game, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time since I played Prince of Persia. I think, or no, it's the sequel, and then, yeah, I think the one that ends in Of Time is the third game, isn't it? We then have both prototype games here with 1 and 2, followed by both Rages, which is kind of cool to see. Especially the first game there, very low completion at 3.75%, which is really cool to see. We then get a few of the Ratchet and Clanks with the sort of reboot of sorts of 2014's Ratchet and Clank. We then have All for One, Full Frontal Assault, and Rift Apart, which is the new PS5 game, which is a lot of fun. And I do know one of them actually got announced for PS Plus this month, so I'm curious, Assassin, if you do plan on jumping on that at any point. We then also have the Red Dead Redemptions, which is really cool to see, with the first game's 100% on PS3, which is fantastic to see. I know that the multiplayer in this is very grindy and very miserable these days. You then also did the PS4 version, which is really cool. And obviously Red Dead 2's a fantastic one to have, especially smashing that out in 2 months. That's pretty great. And then also Red Dead Revolver, which was the first of the Red Dead games, way back on the PS2, I believe. I think Revolver was the PS2. It did get ported to the PS4, and you did smash it out in 2 days, which is really cool. Red Faction Guerrilla, same sort of deal. Really cool one to see here, because I do know there is quite a bit of grindy multiplayer here as well. Only one Resident Evil. That surprises me. Especially having Colat. I would have expected probably a little bit more horror on the account in general, to be honest, if you've got Colat of all games on here. But one Resident Evil 5, one Resident Evil in Resident Evil 5, two of the Resistance games in 3 and Burning Skies. I think they're No, I think Resistance 2 also has trophies. I think the first game doesn't. I think it was released before 2008. But I think Resistance 2 does, however. Rhyme is a fantastic indie platinum. Rise of the Tomb Raider is a really cool one to see here, especially the full 100%, because all of the DLC in Rise of the Tomb Raider sucks, as do all the gold times and stuff in the base game. Rogue Company twice. There's a lot of Road Company right there. And I think that's also your first auto pop that we've seen on the account. I think that is the first and probably the only one. I'm keeping an eye out for him now, mate. We then have Run Sackboy Run, followed by Stalker, which is the game that you are currently working on at the moment. So I do wish you luck in that, Assassin. We then have all of the Saints Rows with trophies, which are really nice to see in the reboot, which is a game I plan on doing very, very, very soon. I actually downloaded that the other day, and got the DLCs, which was fun. Saints Row 4. I actually don't mind Saints Row 4 at all. This is actually a rare game that Australia has our own region stack of Saints Row 4, which is a really interesting thing. Get Out of Hell in 3 days. Get Out of Hell is not great. Probably my least favorite in the series by a country mile. And then Saints Row the Third, followed by Scorn, which is a really interesting horror game to have here. I feel like Scorn was one of those ones. Agony's a very similar one where it got a lot of hype and a lot of controversy before it came out and around when it came out, and then when it did, it just kind of vanished. I know the the PS5 version didn't come out for like a year after it was released on PC, and I feel like it just got no thoroughfare at all. I feel like no one was particularly interested in Scorn on PS5 in the slightest. We then have Sea of Solitude, followed by Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I am curious if we'll see Tomb Raider 2013 now. Shadow Warrior 3, fantastic game. This is kind of a Doom clone. Shadow Warrior 1 and 2 are particularly hard, but 3 is actually pretty cruisy. We then have Singularity, followed by Sleeping Dogs, which is one of my favorite GTA clones of all time. Do expect a video on this one by the end of the year as well, potentially. Sniper Ghost Warrior 2, the only one of the Sniper Ghost Warrior games. It's okay. I'm surprised that if you're gonna have one of these, it'd be Sniper Ghost Warrior 2 and not say Contracts or even the Sniper Elite games. We then have only one of the South Parks as well in the Stick of Truth. I am curious, Assassin, if you are planning on doing the Fractured But Whole at some point. You then have Spec Ops: The Line, which is a fantastic third-person shooter, probably one of the best of all time, to be perfectly honest with you. I adore this game. I do wish that there was a port of it at some point in the story, and this is very, very dark. Spirits of the North, very forgettable sort of walking sim game where you play as a fox, followed by Split Second, followed by a few Star Wars games here with Battlefield 1 and 2's 100%, which are really cool to see, as well as Fallen Order and Republic Commando, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I adore this game. Stray is fun. Super Animal Royale is a very low completion rate, actually. That's way lower than I thought it was going to be based on the thumbnail. And then Super Street here as well. We then also have Tabletop Racing World Tour, followed by Telltale's Tales of the Borderlands, which I think is the third Telltale game that we've seen so far. I think the only other two are Batman and the Game of Thrones one, I think, so far, which is interesting to see. Tekken 7 you smashed out in less than a day, followed by quite a bit of Terminator here, actually, in Salvation and Resistance. Both of which are not actually that bad games. I remember when Terminator Salvation was a easy peasy platinum back in the day, which is kind of funny to say now, given that you actually have to complete a game for it. And Resistance is quite fun. I think the people that did this then went on to do the recent RoboCop game, which I'd like to do at some point. Chronicles of Riddick's Assault of Dark Athena is a fantastic platinum to have here, with 0.99% completion rate. We then have The Crew 2, followed by The Darkness 2, which is another really cool one to see here. I love The Darkness 2. Fantastic comic book game from the PS3 era. Deadly Tower of Monsters, followed by The Godfather, which is another fantastic PS3 game I'd love at some point. The Last of Us Part 2 and Remastered. Remastered, obviously, having quite a lot of multiplayer, so that's cool to see the 100% there. I also like that we've got two Lord of the Rings games back to back here with Aragorn's Quest, which I think this is the first time we've ever seen this on a Plat'n that, and then War of the North, which is another game I would love to have myself at some point. The Medium's next. This is Blooper Team. It exists. It's not a particularly good game. I did a video on it that's on the channel somewhere here that's also not particularly good. Yeah, very forgettable. Not massively excited to see what they do with Silent Hill, to be perfectly honest with you. The Order 1886, I really wish we had a sequel for, followed by The Park, which is a walking sim horror game that is very quick. You did an hour and 15 minutes. I think I've done it in about 40 minutes, so it's definitely very short. The Playroom and the Playroom VR, which is really cool to see here, followed by The Saboteur, which is a brilliant game. This is another one I would absolutely love to see on the PS4 or 5 at some point. I love the way the sort of map's done where when you do capture the control points, it bleeds color back into the world. It's a super interesting setting. I love the Saboteur. I might even have a look on eBay and stuff to see if I can get my hands on a copy of that at some point, because now I really want to actually replay it. The Vanishing Ethan Carter is an interesting sort of walking sim where you are trying to work out a bunch of sort of the mystery of a boy that leads into a bunch of deaths. The Walking Dead Onslaught is a very interesting one to see here, followed by The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which is cool. We then also have Thief, which is a interesting platinum. It's not a particularly good game. It's a game that I don't hate, which is probably the nicest thing I can say to it. Followed by one of the best first-person shooter campaigns of all time in Titanfall 2. It's another one I would absolutely love to do at some point. I don't know how the servers are holding up on this one anymore, so I am curious as to know if that's even worth attempting these days. We then also have Ghost Recon Breakdown, or Breakpoint rather, which I believe wasn't particularly great on launch, but has gotten better over time, followed by Future Soldier, which is a super impressive platinum here, actually. Obviously unobtainable due to multiplayer now, but very, very grindy. I think this is an over 150 hour, 2 hour platinum from memory. Wildlands is a soft spot for me because this game absolutely glitched on me, which meant that I couldn't get the platinum myself. Rainbow Six Siege twice is really cool. This is our second auto pop, and definitely a very deserved one right there. Followed by Splinter Cell Blacklist, 2013's Tomb Raider. Brilliant to see that there. You smashed that one out. Getting the level 60 or 65 or whatever it is for the multiplayer is certainly not a fantastically fun time. You then also got Underworld, which is one of the sort of average PS3 games. Truck Racer, followed by the Uncharted's here, which you don't have Crushing and It. That is interesting. I wouldn't have been surprised to see these, and I'm curious, Assassin, if these are ones that you do plan on doing at some point. You then also just have the platinum in these ones too, which, I mean, oh, they are the PS3 ones. Okay, so what you're missing is unobtainable, sadly. I was going to say, they're probably big percentage cleanups for you, but no, you can't actually earn these, unfortunately. That sucks to see. I am sorry to see that, Assassin. We then also have Golden Abyss, which is a really cool one to see here. This is the Vita one that I think has been delisted, has it not? Or is there also an Uncharted card game as well that might have been delisted? I'm not entirely sure there. We then have Unit 13 followed by Until Dawn, which is another game I plan on doing very, very soon. I think I might save it as a Halloween special of sorts. Valiant Hearts is fantastic. This is a massively underrated Ubisoft game. I highly recommend this. And Assassin, there's actually a sequel that came out this year that is definitely worth playing as well. It's really good too. I can't think of what its title is. I think it's Valiant Hearts: The Way Home or something from memory, and it's really, really good. I highly recommend that one. Vampire the Masquerade. This is a battle royale that I've heard is very average. Sort of just came out and died. Vampire, fantastic game as well. It's another one I'd love to do. I actually genuinely adore this one. I've done the platinum on this on the Symmetry account years and years and years ago. You do have technically two playthroughs, but you can merge them into one if you just don't kill everyone until the end of the game. We then have Watch Dogs, Watch Dogs 2, and Legion's 100%. Legion's 100% is probably the most interesting of these. The other two don't have too terrible lists, but Legion, besides just being a bad game, has a very difficult completion trophy where you got to beat the game on the hardest difficulty, which I think has character permadeaths and stuff as well. So that's a super cool one to see there. I'm not surprised that took 2 years and 2 months. Only one We Were game with We Were Here, followed by Welcome Park, followed by the fantastic walking sim What Remains of Edith Finch. We then have two of the Wolfensteins with the New Order and Old Blood. I am curious if you do plan on doing Wolfenstein 2 at some point. And our last three games here are World Rally Cars 3 and Wreckfest, which is, I've spoken on length on this channel about how amazing Wreckfest is. Absolutely everyone should play it. And our final game is You Are Being Followed. But Assassin, I've got to say, mate, this has been an absolutely fantastic list. I love to see the high completion rate. I love to see a lot of very hard and challenging ultra rare platinums and DLC trophies as well. I love the DLC cleanup. I also love that we had quite a few 100% without platinums. Sometimes they don't quite get the love that they deserve, so that's very nice to see there. But in terms of content for the channel, I'm going to keep pumping it out. It is very, very nice to be back and finally in sort of a setup and a space that is very fun to make content in again. I'm now in my own home with my partner, so that's very exciting. Or renting a place, but we're in our place. You know, we're not moving around every couple months anymore, so that's very exciting. Content will keep coming out. I am curious what you guys are enjoying the most so far. Are you enjoying the Plat'n? Are you enjoying the Project Platinums? The newest one being the Astro's Playroom one. I'm working on a big one of those at the moment that I'm hoping will be, hoping it'll be my best video yet. Definitely putting a lot of effort into that one. So fingers crossed. I'm also curious what sort of other content you guys would like to see trophy related. Should I do more stuff? You know, looking at games released on PS Plus every month. I have a podcast idea that I wouldn't mind sort of fleshing out a bit more. So I am curious if you guys would like to see that sort of thing. And of course, if you made it this far, tell me in the comments what you guys are working on, what's the current game that you're working on and how you're finding it. Anyway, guys, I will see you on the next Plat'n. I miss you. Bye-bye.